Hey, ever seen a blob that can solve a maze? No, not that blob. A slime mold. Yeah, that weird, squishy, goop-like thing you see in science videos. It's like a science experiment that's also a conspiracy theory. Imagine if you had a brain made of goop, and that goop could find a way out of a maze. Sounds like a nightmare, right? But for a slime mold, it's like a walk in the park, or maybe a walk in the goop. So, how does this happen? How does a blob that doesn't even have a brain figure out a maze? Well, it's not exactly a brain, but it's got some kind of magic goop that's way smarter than you think. And here's the kicker. It doesn't even know it's solving a maze. It's just following the path of least resistance, like a lazy person who's also a genius. That's the real secret of slime mold. So, if you ever feel like you're stuck in a maze of your own making, just remember, you're not a slime mold, but maybe you could learn a few tricks from that dude's blobby, maze-solving genius. So what exactly are we talking about? Let me be clear, we're not talking about the slimy green stuff you find in your shower. We're talking about these super smart, slimy blobs that can solve mazes like they're just another Tuesday. These creatures are called slime molds, and they're basically the ultimate blob detectives. They don't have brains, but they've got a way of finding the shortest path through a maze that would make a GPS jealous. Nope, they're not cheating. They're using something called chemotaxis, which basically means they're following chemical trails. It's like they're sniffing out the way forward, but with a blob nose. So they're like the blob version of a detective, sniffing out the path. And if they hit a dead end, they just split in smaller blobs and try another route. It's like a team of blobs working together to find the exit. And the best part? They don't even know they're solving a maze. They're just doing what they do best, growing, eating, and getting from point A to point B. Like a blob on a mission. So yeah, you might not care about slime molds, but think about this. If a blob of goo can figure out a maze, what else can it do? Maybe it's just a weird blob, but it's got potential. Imagine your brain could solve a maze without thinking. That's basically what these slime molds do. They're like a human trying to get through a maze, and they're like a blob with a plan. And here's the kicker. They don't use electricity or neurons. They use chemicals and time. It's like a slow, squishy version of a supercomputer. You're like, wait, that's not even possible. Okay, let's go back in time, like a bad time machine. Slime mold used to be everywhere, like ancient slime mold overlords. They ruled the forest before humans even had smartphones. Back in the day, these slime molds had no brains, but they had a plan. They'd grow like a smart puddle, figuring out the best way through the maze of leaves and soil. Then came the 1800s, and scientists got curious. They started putting slime molds in mazes, like testing if they were smart or just lucky. Spoiler, they were actually pretty smart. In the 1900s, people realized they weren't just blobs. They were like nature's first computers, solving problems without a brain. It's like a jellyfish figuring out calculus. Today, we use their slime to solve modern problems, like figuring out the best way to route fiber optic cables. Slime molds are like the original data scientists, but with more gel and less stress. So, imagine you're in a maze, and instead of a human, you're a blob of goo that can think. You just spread out, like a puddle, and the part that finds the exit gets bigger. It's like a smart slime, but with no brain. It's not really thinking. It's just moving stuff around. Like when you pour water into a cup, it fills up the lowest path first. The slime mold does the same with chemicals, not water. So, the mold is like a blob that follows the path with the most food. It's not solving a maze. It's just finding the easiest way to eat. Kind of like me, but with more slime and less snacks. You could say it's like a magic blob that knows how to find the way out, but it's actually just following the trail of nutrients. It's not smart, it's just squishy and hungry. In the end, it's not a maze-solving genius, it's just a blob that found the best route. And if you're ever stuck, just remember, maybe you're not the smartest, but you're definitely not a slime mold, unless you're eating snacks. So, first up, we need a maze. Not the kind you find in a video game, but the real deal, like a big, squishy path with walls and stuff. But wait, how do you even set that up? Slime molds don't have eyes or brains, so we have to make the maze out of things they can sense like light, heat, and chemicals. Think of it like setting up a treasure hunt with no map, just clues. We put the slime mold in the middle of the maze, like a tiny blob and a giant puzzle, and then we wait a lot. Like, way more than you'd expect for a blob that looks like a science experiment. The maze is made of agar, which is like a gel made from seaweed. It's basically a slimy, jello-like surface that the slime mold can move across. It's like walking on a bed of jello, but with more science. And then, we add food like sugar or yeast somewhere in the maze. The slime mold has to figure out how to get there, even though it's just a blob with no brain. Sound fun? Okay, so the slime mold has this gooey blob that's basically a living spaghetti. It doesn't have a brain, but it's got this super smart way of figuring out the shortest path. Think of it like a traffic jam, but with sludge. It sends out little threads called pseudopodia, like tiny arms, to touch the walls of the maze. These arms are like the slime mold's way of saying, hey, am I touching something cool? Now, if the slime mold touches food, it gets excited and sends more arms that way. It's like when you find your favorite snack in a cereal box, you start grabbing more. But if it hits a wall or a dead end, it doesn't panic. It just goes back and tries a different route. Like when you're lost in a video game and you just keep pressing random buttons until you get right. Over time, the slime mold starts to favor the paths that work. It's like when you learn to ride a bike, you start to trust the handlebars and just go with it. Okay, so they find the right path. But how do they know when they've reached the end? Well, they basically just stop. Like, they're not even trying anymore. They're like, I've arrived, I'm done, I'm gonna take it out. It's not like they have a brain or anything. They just feel the end. It's like if you walked through a hallway and suddenly the floor disappears. You know you'd reach the end, right? So they don't just go straight to the end. They go through the whole maze, and then when they hit the exit, they're like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to relax. It's like a super simple, but really smart way of getting out. It's kind of like if you were trying to find your way out of a room and you just kept walking until you hit the door. No GPS, no map, just resistance and a little bit of luck. So in the end, it's not about speed or strategy, it's about patience and knowing when you're done. Slime molds are basically the Zen masters of mazes, and that's how they solve mazes, by just not giving up. It's like if you had a brain and you were trying to figure out a maze, but you had to do it with your feet and a blob of goo. So, here's the real magic: slime molds aren't just blobs, they're actually kind of like nature's version of a neural network. No brain, no neurons, but they're basically a living circuit board. They use chemicals to communicate with themselves, sending signals like a slow, gooey internet. It's like if your brain was made of jelly and you could talk to your toes. And here's the kicker: they don't just follow paths, they explore. It's like a blob version of I'll try this, then that, and maybe this too, until it finds the way out. The real science is that they're using a process called chemotaxis, which is basically following the smell of food. But instead of a nose, they use chemicals to guide them through the maze. So even though they look like a weird, slimy blob, they're actually doing some seriously smart stuff. They're like a living map, slowly solving problems without a brain. So imagine you're a blob of goo, and you're trying to find your way out of a maze. But instead of thinking, you just blob your way through. It's like if a puddle of yogurt decided to take a walk. You don't have eyes, but you can sense the walls. Like a really slow, gooey version of a robot that smells its way out of a room. Except this robot is made of slime and it's really, really bad at planning. If you're lost, you just keep going. Like a toddler in a grocery store, but with more slime and less screaming. You try every path, and when you hit a wall, you just ooze back and try something else. Quick word from our sponsor. If this sounds like something you enjoy, take a look at the Amazon Echo Dot smart speaker. There's a link and a QR code on screen right now, and in the description below. Alright, back to it. It's like if you had a brain made of spaghetti, and you were trying to solve a puzzle by just eating it. You don't think, you just feel your way out. And sometimes you get stuck, but that's okay. You just keep going. So yeah, slime molds are like blob philosophers. They don't think, they just feel. And somehow, they're really good at finding the way out. You know, not me, but now I do. So here's the thing: slime molds don't actually have brains, but they do have this weird, gelatinous blob thing that kind of acts like one. It's like if a pancake got a PhD in navigation. They don't think like we do. They just kind of ooze through the maze, like a slow-moving, very determined puddle of goop. It's not smart, it's just persistent. But here's the kicker: they can remember things. Like, if they hit a wall, they'll try a different path the next time. It's not learning, it's just a really good guesser. They use chemicals to communicate with themselves, like a secret language of goo. It's like if your body could send text messages to different parts of itself. And the weirdest part? They can solve mazes faster than you can. Not because they're smart, but because they're, well, goo. It's like if a puddle got a job at a maze-solving factory. Okay, so here's the thing: slime molds don't actually solve mazes like humans do. They just kinda meander through stuff. Like, if you put them in a maze, they'll go wherever the food is, not really thinking about the walls. It's not like they're like, oh, I need to find the shortest path. They're more like, I need food, and I'll go wherever I can feel it. It's not strategy, it's survival. So the idea that they solve mazes is kind of a myth. Like, they don't have brains, they don't have goals, they just blob around. but they're really good at finding food in weird places. So, if you ever see a slime mold in a maze, don't think it's a genius. Think it's a hungry blob with a bad sense of direction. But hey, it's still pretty cool how it finds food without a plan. So, next time someone says slime molds solve mazes, just think of them as the blob version of a lost tourist. Lost, hungry, and determined to find something to eat. Okay, so the next myth is that slime molds are actually super smart and can solve mazes like a genius. But here's the thing, slime molds don't even have a brain. They're just a gooey, blobby mass of cells. So how could they be solving mazes? Maybe they're just following the path of least resistance, like a lazy person taking the shortest route home. But wait, some people say they're using some kind of superpower to figure out the maze. Like, maybe they're thinking really hard. But no, they're just spreading out like a puddle, and the chemicals in them help them find food. It's like a puddle of gelatin trying to find a snack, not solving a puzzle. So if they're not solving mazes, what are they doing? They're basically just trying to find food and avoid poison. It's like a blob trying to find the nearest pizza place, not solving a maze. They're just moving in the direction that feels right, like a really basic GPS. And here's the kicker, slime molds don't even know what a maze is. They just move randomly. But because they're spreading out, they end up finding the shortest path. It's like if you had a bunch of spaghetti noodles and you spread them out over a maze, they'd naturally find the way out. It's not intelligence, it's just physics. So yeah, the idea that slime molds solve mazes is kind of a fun myth, but it's more like they're just following their instincts, like a blob trying to find food. Not magic, not intelligence, just a bunch of cells trying to survive. And that's kind of cool in its own way. You know that weird blob in your kitchen? The one that's actually a genius. It's hiding in your fridge, in the mold on your cheese, or maybe even in your coffee if you're not careful. It's not just some creepy stuff in your fridge. That same slime mold is actually in your computer chip, working behind the scenes to help your phone calculate stuff faster. And here's the kicker. You probably had one in your science class. That weird thing in the petri dish growing like a weird, green, smart blob. It's actually a future AI. So next time you see mold, don't panic. You're looking at a tiny, ancient genius. Just don't eat it, unless you want to solve mazes in your head. So, here's the thing. I found a study where scientists put slime molds in a maze that looked like a real city map. They made it out of agar, like a giant petri dish with fake roads and stuff. The slime mold didn't just go straight through. It took a weird path, like a drunk spider on a coffee table, but somehow it found the right way to the food. And here's the kicker. When they compared the slime's path to the actual city's subway system, it was almost identical. Like, the slime had a better sense of navigation than a human in a city. So, basically, a gooey, brainless blob can outsmart a whole city's transportation system. That's not just impressive, it's kinda terrifying. So, these slime molds don't just solve mazes, they crush them. Like, they've been known to find the shortest path in a maze faster than your roommate finds their keys. And here's the kicker, they do it without a brain. Just a bunch of goo and a few chemical signals. It's like a dinner party where everyone's acting on instinct and nobody's keeping score. In experiments, they've been clocked solving mazes in under 24 hours. That's faster than most humans can solve a Rubik's Cube without cheating. Not bad for a blob with no eyes or memory. But here's the real wild part, they don't just find the exit, they remember the path. Like a blob with a short-term memory, but still way better than your last day. So, next time you're stuck in a maze, maybe you should just become a blob. No stress, no brain, just goo and a little bit of chemistry. And also, probably a lot of snacks. Okay, so the slime mold is like, I'm gonna solve this maze, no problem. But then the maze throws a hissy fit. Turns out, the path it chose was just a really bad one. It tries to go back, but the trail it left behind is gone, like the maze ate its own footsteps. It's like trying to retrace your steps in a library that keeps rearranging the books. Eventually, it just gives up and starts making a new plan. It's like when you're stuck in a video game and you're like, okay, I'm just going to try a different strategy. But here's the kicker, it actually starts to work again. It's like, okay, I was lost, but now I'm not. I just needed to take a wrong turn to find the right one. So, in the end, even when things go wrong, the slime mold just keeps going. It's like, I might have messed up, but I'm not giving up. I'm just going to keep trying. So here's the thing. Nobody tells you about the slime mold emotional trauma. It's like a tiny, gooey version of a person who's lost their way and can't even cry. They don't really have feelings, but they do have a kind of existential dread when they're stuck in a maze. It's like being trapped in a really bad video game and not being able to reload. The worst part is, they can't even tell you they're sad. They just do slower, like a sad emoji that's also a puddle of regret. But hey, they're not completely helpless. They can still find their way out eventually. Just like you can always find your way out of a bad mood if you take a walk and eat some chips. So in the end, it's not about the sadness, it's about the resilience. And maybe a little chit cut, because even slime molds need snacks to get through life. So, how did humans even figure out slime molds solve mazes? Well, it turns out they're not just slimy, they're also kinda smart. Scientists started watching these blobs move through mazes, and it was like watching a science experiment with a weird, gooey sidekick. They realized the slime mold didn't just wander, it made decisions. Like, it would choose the right path and ignore the wrong one, even when there were multiple routes. It's like the blob version of a GPS, but with more sludge and less satellite signals. The real kicker, they found out the slime mold uses something like a chemical map. It sends out signals like a trail of slime and follows the strongest signal to the food. It's like a blob version of a trail of breadcrumbs, but more efficient. Scientists then started testing this with real mazes, and it worked. They even used it to solve complex problems, like finding the best route for fiber optic cables. Who knew a blob could be a networking genius? And here's the best part. They didn't need to teach the slime mold anything. It just figured it out by itself, like a brainless genius. Basically, it's like the universe said, hey, make a blob that can solve mazes and make it look dumb. Quick word from our sponsor. If this sounds like something you'd enjoy, take a look at the Apple AirPods 2nd generation. There's a link and a QR code on screen right now, and in the description below. Alright, back to it. Before you go, if you enjoyed this, please give it a like, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And tell us in the comments what you'd like us to make next. We read every single one. Thank you so much for watching.